This is Leafs Morning Take with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill.
Now we've got a fight started here right off the bat with Rosehill.
30 minutes of live, nonstop Leafs talk starts now.
Hey, what's going on? We're back in the mix for a Tuesday presented by Botano. It's the Tuesday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with you. And Rosie, 2 words today: human eraser. Back in the mix for the third time on this show. How are you, buddy?
Good, dude. Yeah, the humanoid showed up, begging to come on the show. He loves it. And, well, we had to work late last night, but we got it in the can, don't we?
We did have it in the can. There's a lot to discover, a lot to talk about. Luke Schenn's coming up in about 10 minutes from now. Got to talk about the Stanley Cup Final as well. But I wanted to get your take on the Matthew Tkachuk hit on Jack Eichel. Seems to be getting a lot of conversation in the hockey world today. Aside from the fact that there were 11 misconducts handed out, I want to get your thoughts on that. But first, the Matthew Tkachuk hit on Jack Eichel.
Well, I mean, if anyone's like, "Whoa, was this like?" We're so used to going to, "Was this suspendable? Was this like?" It's hit hockey. It's the playoffs. This is an absolutely unbelievable hit, and my favorite part about it, to be honest, is Eichel's comments afterwards. He goes, "Yeah, lost my footing," and you can tell he toe picks and there's no worse feeling than going north and kind of losing your footing. If you don't have your edge, that's like your safety. That's your strength. That's your core there where you can plant that edge and you can stand up to a hit. And if you lose that and you're falling forward and there's a guy coming into you to fold you in half, it's an ugly feeling. And he had that there, but he took it like a champ. It is what it was. Great hit by Tkachuk. Big boy, open ice. Not a goddamn thing wrong with it. Just beautiful. And I love, like I said, Eichel getting back up, getting back in the game. Afterwards, he said it was a great hit. It was a big hit. I lost my edge. Nothing wrong with it. This is the playoffs. Love that response.
What do you think of all the misconducts last night, too? And ESPN, of course.
I think they were throwing it out a little easily. I mean, fuck, they're trying to do their things. The game's out of hand. I get it. The refs are making sure it doesn't turn into a gong show, but just throwing out tens and everything like crazy, whatever. It is what it is. Game was out of hand, and Florida's going to do some shit to maybe try to get something going for the next game, get something churned and make something happen, get those guys off their game, get one of them to take a misconduct or a suspension or whatever. That's just what happens when the frustration sets in. And yeah, they're throwing out misconducts like crazy, trying to keep it under control. I guess it's understandable.
First and foremost, remember to subscribe, tap that like button, leave us a review wherever you're checking us out, at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Again, at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. If you're watching right now and are not subscribed, please subscribe right now at the Leafs Nation 401. Additionally, we're available wherever you find your podcast. Just search Leafs Morning Take. Don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com for the very latest on all things Toronto Maple Leafs. Thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns, drop us a line in the chat down below here on YouTube. We'll get to it a bit later on. But for now, let's get over the boards. So as mentioned, the Stanley Cup Final, and again, we talked about this ad nauseum, especially when the Leafs were eliminated in 5 games by the Florida Panthers. Were they a team of destiny? Well, we sit here through 2 games in the Stanley Cup Final. It is 2-0 for the Vegas Golden Knights. Adin Hill's been tremendous. Jonathan Marchessault's been great. You mentioned Jack Eichel's been fantastic. And the Golden Knights, lo and behold, Rosie, are 2 wins away from a first Stanley Cup.
Yeah, they are. They look good, man. My goodness. It looks like, Florida's lost a little bit of steam. Their Conn Smythe contender hasn't exactly picked up in this series where he left off. But I don't know. A guy that plays in the league sent me a screenshot of the Golden Knights roster and the size of them. And he goes, you win with big bad teams, and it is just 6'4", 6'3", 6'1", 6'2", 6 foot, 6'5", all the way down the roster. It's unbelievable how big and imposing they are. And when you got your big boys running and everyone's playing together, they are a force to be reckoned with. And I think that's why this destiny-laden team in the Florida Panthers is on their heels right now. To win both at home, that's exactly what Vegas needed to do. And I imagine Panthers are reeling right now to get things back on track and hopefully have a change of pace at home. But Bobrovsky's got to be better. I would put him in. I would keep him in. I mean, I can't believe Maurice didn't lead with yeah, I'm going with my guy. He didn't put his confidence in him. He said, yeah, I'm going to be stewing over that for 2 days, saying that I might make a change or Bobber might be done. But it's kind of hard to say you play that good. And literally without Bobrovsky, they're not in this position. They're just not. You have to have all things go right. I know how well that team's playing and X, Y, Z, but to say that, a couple of soft ones, I know he didn't have his best stuff to start this series, but to not be like, he's our guy, he's the reason we're here, I'm going back to him and giving that confidence was kind of surprising to me.
As someone who is fluent in sarcasm, I can tell you profoundly that it will be Sergei Bobrovsky, and Paul Maurice was merely being sarcastic, because I saw a quote on social media as well from, I saw a quote as well.
Okay, good. That makes more sense.
He was a bit shocked that the question was even asked. He did one of those, he's going to Bobrovsky, and he said the guy's been something to the effect of outrageously good for the last 2 months. It's going to be Bobrovsky, but I could see you're not the only one to take that away, but I'm sarcastic as hell. That's why.
Yeah, shit, that makes more sense, because as he started to answer the question, I thought he was going to say, are you kidding me? He's our guy. And then he goes, I'm going to be stewing over that for 2 days. And I'm like, what, dude? What are you doing? And I was kind of on in the background, so I was like, wow, that's surprising.
Yeah.
Good thing it's sarcasm. That makes a lot more sense from a guy like Paul Maurice, one of my favorite coaches in the NHL right now.
Oh, the absolute best. And it'll be Sergei Bobrovsky. Adin Hill's been a phenomenal story. And I even wondered from a Conn Smythe look, plus 1,100 for Adin Hill entering the series. And I think it's getting juicier, especially with it being a bit of a popularity contest. And we love that Michael Leighton type story. Adin Hill sort of coming out of nowhere, especially when Laurent Brossoit went down, I should say, against the Edmonton Oilers. The next thing you know, he is 2 wins away from a Stanley Cup and free agency a couple weeks away as well. Ivan Barbish has been fantastic. So we'll see if there's a response from the Florida Panthers. An extra day off. Thursday is game 3 of that series in Sunrise. Meantime, Rosie, for the first time in 4 years, the UFC is returning to Canada. Saturday, June 10th, Rogers Arena in Vancouver, UFC 289. Bantamweight champion Amanda Nunes will put her title on the line against Irene Aldana. In total, 6 Canadians have been added to the card, headlined by Burlington, Ontario's Mike Malott. He's taken on American Adam Fugit. Malott, who's a Dana White Contender Series signee, is widely considered the top rising fighter in Canada right now. This marks the 6th UFC event in Vancouver. Additionally, this is the first why do I want to say PowerPoint or Power Play? This is the first PPV in Vancouver pay-per-view. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. In Vancouver in 9 years, UFC 174, June 14th, 2014. So it's been a while. Looking forward to the weekend, some UFC and some banging and bashing out there, man. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it'll be cool. My feed has some MMA stuff pop up on it once in a while. And Jesus, there's some bruisers out there. And I like how the women are getting involved too. There's some absolute killers. I think the way was paved by Ronda Rousey at one point in time. And she paved the way for some of those girls to get trained up and just be absolute beasts out there. So hats off to everyone in Vancouver. That'll be a good show.
Yeah, Ronda kicks some absolute ass. She's in WWE right now. It's a bit different, obviously, but back in her heyday, man, she was unreal. Just watching a Ronda match, it was it was quick. It was very, very quick, and it was over. So a lot of heavy lifting ahead. So Brad Treliving now in the mix as the new GM of this team. I want to go over some of the UFAs, and I think it goes perfectly with today's guest. But some of the UFAs who you would look at bringing back, who you'd look at moving on from. So you got Luke Schenn, Eric Gustafson, Justin Hall on the back end, Ryan O'Reilly, Nola Chari, Zach Aston Reese, Michael Bunting, David Kampf, Alex Kerfoot, and Wayne Simmons. Who are some of the guys that you would look at in terms of UFAs to keep and move on from?
Well, I mean, I think we're gonna mention it here in the interview how Luke doesn't show his hand too much about what's going on behind the scenes, but you'd like to think that the way things went with him, big bruising defenseman, kind of solidified the back end, being a little bit softer and toughened it up, and got some veteran presence back there to kind of complement Gio, and Gio was slowing down a little bit there during the playoffs, so he was a great addition. I would like to see him signed up. I mean, honestly, Justin Hall. It's not Halsey's fault. It's not, he's a 6th defenseman, whatever, but they play him sometimes like a number 2 guy. And I mean, we've been on it ad nauseum on this show about how many times he's costed the team single-handedly, right? And that's just devastating at this level. And you'd think that they'd back off his minutes. And the head scratcher, and it's not Justin Hall's fault at all, is why do they keep putting him in that position? Why is he out there with a minute left in a 1-goal game, like when he's the most, the biggest liability on the defense core? It's a head scratching, and we need to move away from that. You can't afford to have that down the stretch. So I'd like to get someone a little bit solider back there. Whether you let him go for nothing, in my opinion, he's maybe not set up for this league quite yet. He does do some good things, but his mistakes are just too massive. We've talked about it. I would love to see him not be on the roster next year. No offense to him, but they used him so improperly, I believe. And I'm more interested in who we bring in. Can you move some of those guys? Like, I want them to fix the problem.
Again, it's tough to quantify what the problem is. And if you're thinking the core four is the problem, I don't know if it's likely to happen. But looking at the UFAs, Luke Schenn's a guy profoundly I would look at bringing back. He wants to come back. It just makes a lot of sense in my world. Even a guy like Nola Chari, I think, could do some damage in the bottom six. David Kampf, I think, has had some really, really good, strong years with the Maple Leafs. Ultimately, it'll come down to price tag for him. And Ryan O'Reilly, we both know how we feel about the player. I happen to think he was banged up for the majority of his tenure, maybe with the Leafs. Maybe he wasn't. But I think he has another gear. And I think to get a full training camp, a full year under his belt with the Maple Leafs, I think would pay dividends, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So if the term and the money makes sense for Ryan O'Reilly, I don't know if it would work financially. That's a guy I would zone in on and say, hey, he makes too much sense to bring back. But ultimately, two sides have to dance here, and we'll see what happens. But again, Ryan O'Reilly is a guy I would circle in on.
Yeah, I would like to see a full year of him in a Maple Leafs uniform. I don't want to maybe commit, 3-4 years to him at high money. You can get yourself in a jam, but just say, hey, do you want to play here for a year or two? Here's a reasonable amount of money, and just see what he can do with it. And, maybe have, I don't know, some bonuses attached to it if you can. I don't even know what you can do anymore with the cap. It seems like they're so handcuffed, but it'd be nice to see him in a Leafs uniform and see how he can lead that team and be part of moving forward, because I do like the cut of his jib and his leadership qualities.
Absolute stud and man rocket, Ryan O'Reilly. For now, though, Rosie, we've been teeing up all show long, first 15 minutes or so, our interview with Luke Schenn. So we caught up with a 2-time Stanley Cup champion on Monday night. So alert, Rosie is having nose.
And welcome today, our interview as promised with none other than the human eraser, Luke Schenn. What have you been doing lately, buddy? Give us the rundown. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on. Lately, it's just we went back to Vancouver after Toronto, got packed up in Toronto, went back to Vancouver for a couple weeks, and got the kids back into school, and just a couple of little activities we had them signed up for before I got traded. And then in the meantime, we were just packing the house up. Lots of moving and packing lately, and getting everything lined up. And now we're back in Kelowna. Just been here for about 2 days, so feels like summer's finally, kicking off now.
So the worst thing about being a pro hockey player in my memory was packing the family up twice a year at least. And that's if you know where you're going and you go home afterwards. And you've done it so much lately that I don't think people understand what it would take to pack up a family of 5 and just literally with all your possessions and hit the road. And it's terrible, but it probably makes you want to put some roots down somewhere to finish off your career.
You know what? Yeah. Well, the moving, I think I don't even know how many times we moved. If I were to guess in the last 5 or 6 years, probably 8 or 9 times. I mean, we'd have to probably go back and tally, but it's been a lot. And when you start adding kids into the mix, it's fine when it's just you and your whatever wife at the start, or maybe you throw in one kid. But when you start having multiple, it's gets a little bit much. You're just hauling everything from, as you know, everything to do with kids, and it's just you can't travel light anymore. So and then on top of that, we did it in the midst of having a newborn, right? So it was crazy hectic times, and be nice to settle down somewhere for sure for a few years.
For the record, Rosie is sipping on some vino, but we're recording this interview on Monday night, so don't get any ideas about.
No, that's just how you start your day in old Alberta. Usually, I'm surprised it's not a little spiced captain or something you got going there, Rosie, for breakfast.
I can't even pronounce my hometown's name of my town, so I don't even try. But I'm supposed to be on the golf course right now, but you keep begging to come on our show, so I got to work late.
Yeah, that's exactly how it went. That's exactly how it went. Day 2 into my summer. Hey, Jay, can I get on your show?
Hey, man. We're the Luke Schenn insiders, so we appreciate your time, man.
Yeah.
Great to catch up with you once again. Now that I've had a chance to sort of decompress, everything that transpired, what was that run like back with the Toronto Maple Leafs this year?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, obviously it ended shorter than we all would have liked. And I think we definitely had a team that, could have gone a lot further. And, at the end of it, looking back, you run into unbelievable goaltending, and give Florida credit. They played real well as a team, and they're kind of, playing the right way. And their game was really good heading into playoffs, and obviously see what they did with Boston and for us against two. You look at like I said, the goaltending there, it was at a historical rate there, I think, for a little bit. So, I mean, it was, but looking back personally at my time there, it was crazy going back full circle, obviously starting my career there. It was obviously ups and downs being such a young guy, and probably a little bit naive to the whole situation of what it meant to wear the blue and white, and, how to handle those ups and downs, and coming back all these years later with, the career and, bumps along the road and the highs and lows, and to kind of come back and get that opportunity again. It was pretty surreal. I had thought about it at times, and obviously you never really think it's going to be a reality, and to come full circle, it was really special. And I just really enjoyed it a lot more than I think than I did earlier on. Not to say I didn't enjoy it, but I feel like you have a better appreciation for it. So it was pretty cool. And to come back there, like I said, with, the first time you go around, you're a young guy, and you're kind of just taking it all in, and you're, enjoying the city a little bit more, and coming back this time with the family. It was a whole new experience. And it was just crazy how time flies.
Attaboy, Lucas. Well, and now that you've had time to process and all the, would you say your chance of re-signing with them is like 100% or like 110%, or where are we at here?
I don't know, Jay. I might have to hire you for my agent. You can get me some inside track here.
I would work the phones hard for you. That's a good idea.
What would your pitch be, Rosie? What would your pitch be?
Oh man, it would be a highlight reel massacre. Like I would play Wendell Clark, All Heart, that YouTube thing, except
that's the best video of all time.
Oh, I would just do that for you, and I'd play it for GMs, and I'd be like, you know what my fucking number is, and I'd walk out, and it'd be hilarious. It'd be a bidding war. Not
to mention the off ice too, what a guy can bring to the team dinners and getting the boys together. All that sort of, that's as big a part of it as anything, right? You and I sat together on the plane. You got to be able to hot stove with the boys too, right?
Luke, your training's going to suffer this summer, but you know what? At your age, it's just throw it out the window anyways, man. You're ready to go. You know what to do. You just need some Flexol and a coffee, and away you go, buddy.
Yeah, no, I know that was your routine, right? So, yeah, no, actually, you're the king of getting on the foam roller and cracking your T-spine. I know that you throw that into the mix with your coffee.
If I loosen up those SI joints, look the fuck out.
It's funny. It's funny we have you on, Schenner, because we had Brian Burke on last week, and he, I don't know how the interview ended. It was really, really bizarre, and Rosie had no clue what he said, and I had no clue what he said. What did he say, Rosie? Have we figured that out yet?
Burke's the man.
Oh, he's so awesome, man. Then he said something that I know was fucking
something about oxygen.
I couldn't hear you. Get him the oxygen or something. Fuck. But we couldn't hear it very good. And then he kind of just chuckled and like hit end. And we're like, what did he say? But we'll figure it out.
Man, Berkey, I mean, obviously, he was so good to me. I mean, he signed me back in the day and he traded me, but we've always kept in touch, and we've always, texted, and every time, I'd go into an opposing building or he'd be on the road, we'd always make sure he'd go over and say hello. And I don't know, it was crazy when I was in Toronto there and I did that Luke's Troops, we went to Afghanistan together, and it was him and I, and it was Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys and Rick Mercer, like the Rick Mercer Report, and who else there? Lisa LaFlamme from like CTV The National and stuff. We went over to Afghanistan on Canada Day, and I had no idea what to expect. He had been over there before, but it was over there, and it was July 1st, obviously, and he was the GM of the Leafs, so he was just working the phone all the time, like with the time change and everything too. And the way it was set up, we were staying like on base there, and we were pretty much sharing like this little room. Like I think it was like 2 little bunk beds in there. It was just me and Berkey. We were just thinking, it was so funny.
Top bunk.
Yeah, exactly. But no, he was so like, I just remember that. And I remember being like, how, it was just like wild situation. I look back at it, I'm like, how the hell did I end up, taking part in that? And just, yeah, Berkey, he's the all-time storyteller. Everyone, loves to hear what he has to say. And I'm sure he's always a great interview when you get him on.
Hey, you always seem to be tight with some of these GMs, and sorry to interrupt, Rosie. Well, Berkey, Kyle Dubas, you're a foodie. I got to ask you this. So you're a foodie. What restaurant would you recommend? What kind of cuisine would you recommend to watch that whole saga unfold with Brendan Shanahan and Kyle Dubas? What would you eat? Popcorn or something else?
Oh my gosh. It wasn't this. I'm not getting into this song. Like, no, I just, you know what? At the end of the day, it was. I am a foodie. Yes, love crushing and then get my hands on. But no, at the end of the day, hockey's one side of it, and business is another side of things. And obviously, from a management standpoint, coach's standpoint, player standpoint, you always, you always think of the on ice thing, and at the end of the day, it's on ice and it's off ice. So as players, we obviously don't know what happened behind the scenes there, but obviously Kyle's a great hockey guy, and so is Schenn. They're both have elite positions in the league and have been around a long time because of how smart they are and how good they are, thinking the game and leaders. So that's what I'll say on that. And,
Anyway, Lukey, good stuff. We're gonna go out there.
Yeah, can't bury myself in that one. Good try though, Nick.
Thank you.
Why would you? But Lukey, in all honesty, being in the position that you're in, coming off a spot where, presumably things went pretty well for you personally, do you allow yourself to start thinking about the team and what's to come? And are you paying attention, or do you got to wait till you actually sign, where you're going, then your focus goes to that team, whatever it may be?
I mean, like after the season, yeah, you always reflect and like think, what you could have done differently, what you liked about your game, what you didn't like, and kind of, for me, I have a hard time. You shut it off, but yet you always are kind of thinking about like the next season coming up or what I got to do to prepare for the next season. So it kind of doesn't escape ever. Like, I mean, I'm already, back, actually first day kind of getting back, officially started training, been staying active, but back in the gym tomorrow, and gonna start skating the next week already. So you're always kind of thinking about it. I mean, from a team standpoint, it's hard to think about when you aren't 100% sure where you're going to end up, but obviously, whatever happens, you got to perform and play, to what's expected. And for me personally, I mean, like my own mindset is, try to continue to improve and get better. I know, I'm getting older, and that's kind of the one thing that, people could always bring up, but I don't really care about the age aspect. I'm finding different ways to improve. And every year there's always something to work on. And that's kind of what I like about the whole, it's a grind and it's a challenge. And like, just that's what kind of keeps you driven. And as soon as you lose that, I think is probably when it goes stale and probably when it's time to hang them up.
So personally, I think Rosie would be a terrible agent, but my sell point would be, look at what I did with Quinn fucking Hughes. Look what I did with Morgan Riley, dude. Like I'll admit it. Like I was really, really impressed. They whipped you guys together in the postseason. You brought the best out of him. He brought the best out of you. And it was a perfect combo. Like that would be my sell point. So I want to ask you, behind the scenes at this point in your career, what are you looking for? What will be some of like the determining factors if you get to market around free agency and you try to decide your future here with your family?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's different things to decide. I mean, it just depends, I guess. You never know. Like free agency can go. I've been on the other side of it too, where it's a little bit quiet at free agency, and you think that it's going to be a little bit more glamorous than it is. There's a certain amount of guys in the league that I think do pretty well, and the big top end guys put up the big numbers, and then there's some other guys that are kind of waiting to see what happens and see how things shake out. So I don't want to get too comfortable and say, I put anything ahead of, the process of what's going to happen. But for sure, when you got a family, you look at all the situations as far as, what would be a good spot, obviously, family wise, but on top of that too, you obviously want to go to a good team that has a chance to be in the mix to win. And also, like you said, fit's a big thing, right? So, obviously there's no guarantees who you're going to play with ever, but I mean, you kind of look at depth charts and decors and see potentially what could shake itself out. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed, obviously, like you said, playing with Hughesy the last year and a half, and really, really, I mean, it's nice that nice compliment to get the chance to play with him, a guy like Morgan too as well. Guys who are really good skaters and move the puck pretty well and escape trouble with their feet and pretty good on the offensive blue line. I mean, obviously those guys, it's really nice to get the chance to play with guys like that.
We love it, Lukey. Well, hell, I don't think you're going to be tipping your hand too much about what's going on behind the scenes personally, but I have a feeling the Leafs are going to want you. And my advice as your pending agent is to go back there, finish where it started. You got 4, maybe 5 good years on that roster, and I have a feeling you're going to win a cup, my man.
Oh, wow. That's bold prediction. I mean, you keep tipping those glasses of rouge back and anything can come to your brain. You never know. Keep drinking those things, man, and make some calls.
Hey, I am a professional, and you just listen, all right? You do what I tell you. Thanks for coming on, Luke. We appreciate it, buddy. Say hi to Jess and all those kids.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
See you, buddy.
There you have it. 2-time Stanley Cup champion Luke Schenn. How many glasses of rouge did you have last night, bud?
Just 2, man. I just like talking to Lukey once in a while. We kind of come the show instead of doing the whole boring professional thing, which I think is more our stuff.
Yes. So we appreciate Luke coming on. Again, didn't tip his hand one way or another, but I'm with you, man. Like, I think Toronto makes a lot of sense. Just the passion he played with, beating the wheels off Patrick Maroon, his buddies. Like, Luke Schenn's the type of guy, and you played with him, he will go through a wall for you. It doesn't matter who's on the other side, right?
Yeah, he's solid, and they need more of that on the roster. I think that is the problem. If they can get guys that are willing to play big in the playoffs, I think it's going to serve them well, because ultimately it's no secret this team's hump is adjusting to playoff hockey. And the guys that get it done in the regular season kind of take it back 2 gears instead of cranking it into overdrive. And you need that in the playoffs. You're seeing it now. The guys that step up huge and play that playoff style hockey. It's a harder style. It's tougher. It's meaner. It's more intense. It's more rugged. You need to be able to adjust to that. And the guys on this roster in the last years have not adjusted to it. And it's why they haven't done well in the playoffs. So if they can solve that problem, I think that's the direction they need to go in. And you definitely need to have guys like Luke Schenn to step up and do that. So they got a guy that fits right there. Why wouldn't they be trying to re-sign him?
Very well said. The Betano wrap-up is presented by Betano.ca. The game starts now, 19+. Please play responsibly. Tough night last night at Rogers Center for Alek Manoah, the ace of the Toronto Blue Jays, who could be destined for Triple H. But onwards we move, Triple A. But onwards we move to tonight's game, and it's Kevin Gausman, the showstopper. He's been phenomenal for this team. Hunter Brown going for the Houston Astros. I'm going to take a poke at the Jays money line in this game. It just, wins are so important this time of year for my money. I know it's just in mid-June here, but they need this one badly, and they need a response, and Kevin Gausman's been that answer all season long effectively. He is now the ace of the Toronto Blue Jays, so I'm putting my faith in Gausman tonight, Rosie.
Yeah, he seems to be the dude. It's a nice time to jump on when he's pitched. And I didn't realize Manoah dropped another one, man. He's been struggling. Yeah. So hopefully the Jays can put her on track here this time.
He didn't just drop it. He got fucking pumped, dude. And they should have made this decision a month ago. You saw the name Ricky Romero, trending on Twitter last night. Roy Halladay. Something is up big time with Alek Manoah. Maybe it's the pitch clock. Hasn't been the same guy since pitching against Seattle in the playoffs last year, but hopefully he figures it out. He has outstanding stuff. So we're going to take a peek at the Leafs, or the Blue Jays money line, I should say, against the Houston Astros tonight. Let's get to the chat. First and foremost, our apologies for a bit of the lag. If you got a bit of a lag on the show today, we're working through some technical kinks, and we hope to figure that out in the next couple of weeks leading into next season, year 2 here of Leafs Morning Take. But a lot of conversation around Luke Schenn, and rightfully so. Just love speaking to the guy. That was the 3rd time we had him on. Of course, you have a good friendship and a relationship with him dating back to your years with the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I just think it makes too much sense, given how much he's probably going to command on the market, that you do your best to bring this guy back. And not to mention, too, like you draw comps to the trade deadline, and we heard that Calgary was sniffing around. And who was the GM of the Calgary Flames? Brad Treliving, right?
Yeah, that's right. There was rumors about them wanting him in Calgary. it's tough to get deals done, tough to get trades done. And, you know, every time a team wants a guy doesn't mean they get him. He ended up in Toronto, and I think things went well there. I mean, he was what they wanted, he was what they needed, and he provided what they asked from him, and why they brought him in. He produced. So I would think they're trying to get a deal done with him. I believe that Luke is open to it, of course, and you know, both parties need to get together and figure out term and money. And you know, the first thing is deciding if both of them want to get it done, and then you take it to the next step. So I think they're kind of in the beginning stages of that, and we'll see if Treliving can get something done. But you know, I'm not sure what number Luke would command and what kind of term, but again, they need a guy like him, and I think they can move some pieces around it and certainly make it work.
Yeah, we're not going to throw out numbers on this show, but I think he's due an upgrade in wage considering what he's done the last couple of years. Like, he's really found his game. I thought, again, he was great in the playoffs. And now, like, this isn't just a one-off. Like, him and Quinn Hughes were a thing, then Morgan Riley in Toronto. He seems to bring the best set of a player. And again, I just love the way this guy plays when it matters most in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I'm really, really hoping for our sake and for Toronto's sake, Luke Schenn can re-sign. But very thankful of him making some time here in his offseason. And thanks to you for hooking that up, Rosie. Luke Schenn is one of our favorites on this show.
Yeah, you bet. And like you said, he makes guys around him better, and that's an asset that's very hard to get. It's very valuable, and if you can sign a guy who fills a hole and also elevates a guy like Morgan Riley's game and gives him some confidence, I mean, that's worth its weight in gold. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the back end here in the coming weeks.
With that in mind, we'll bid you farewell for today's show. Again, we're going to be with you Monday through Friday, all the way until July 2nd. So rest assured, anything that happens in Leafs land, we'll have you covered. We're promising a couple of big-time interviews, we hope, over the next couple weeks. So stay tuned for that. Over in addition, of course, to Luke Schenn, who you heard today. So that's Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you again to Luke Schenn, producer Aaron. Fantastic job. And we'll talk on Wednesday. Take care.